All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful short story by G.L. Fuentes called A Letter to God. It's this incredible tale where one man's absolute, unshakable faith leads to a conclusion that is just, wow, so unforgettable and so ironic. And what's really cool is that everything we're talking about today, all the key details, they come directly from these amazing handwritten notes. This is the source, so we're getting the story straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. It really lays out why this story has stuck around for so long.
So this whole story kind of hinges on one big question, one I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Could a genuinely good, selfless act of kindness just completely and totally backfire? Well, as you're about to see, the answer is pretty complicated.
Our story kicks off with a simple man who has a very simple hope. So let's set the scene with our first section, a farmer's great hope. Okay, so let's meet our guy, Lencho. He's a farmer, and his whole world is this field of ripe corn. He lives all by himself out in this valley, and his entire livelihood, everything, depends on something he has zero control over, the weather. All he wants, all he needs, is just one good downpour to make sure he has a great harvest. He's watching the sky, he's hoping, and then, boom, it happens. The clouds roll in, and the rain starts to fall. For a little while, everything is absolutely perfect. It really seems like his faith has paid off. And you have to understand, for Lencho, this isn't just rain. No. This is literally money falling from the sky. It's his family's future. He's out there looking at the big raindrops and seeing 10 peso coins, and the little ones as 5 peso coins. You can just imagine his pure joy. But you know how stories go. That perfect moment? Yeah, it's not gonna last. That joy is about to turn into an absolute nightmare, which brings us to our next section, the storm of despair. The very thing he was praying for turns on him. That gentle shower just transforms into a violent, destructive hailstorm. And the source notes point out this really bitter irony. The hailstones looked like new silver coins. Talk about a cruel twist, right? And the result is just total devastation. The field, which was this vibrant symbol of life and his future, is now just covered in white. The notes use this incredibly powerful image, describing it as a shroud covering a dead body. His hope is literally buried under all that ice. Just think about that whiplash for a second. One minute he's counting pesos falling from the sky, the next he's staring at this devastating reality. His beautiful field is gone, and with it, his family's food for the entire year. Now, facing total ruin, most of us would probably just despair, right? But Lencho is not most people. His response is what makes the story so incredible. Leading him to do something truly extraordinary, he decides to write a letter to God. This is the absolute core of who he is. He's lost his crop, he's lost his income, but he has not lost his faith. He just has this simple, powerful belief that God knows what's happened, and that, of course, God is going to help him. So his plan is born right out of this pure, simple faith. He writes down his problem. He clearly states that he needs 100 pesos to get back on his feet, and then he addresses the envelope simply to God. And then he just pops it in the mailbox, trusting the system will get it there. So the letter's in the mail, but what happens when a letter addressed to God actually lands in the hands of a regular person? Well, that brings us to our next part, an unexpected reply. When the postmaster sees this letter, his first reaction is exactly what you'd expect. He just bursts out laughing. I mean, who wouldn't? But then the laughter stops, and he's genuinely moved by the incredible, unwavering faith of whoever wrote this letter. He decides, no way. A faith like this cannot be disappointed. So he does something amazing. He resolves to answer the letter himself. He gives up part of his own salary and goes around collecting money from his employees and friends, all to help this total stranger he's never met. Okay, now the numbers here are absolutely crucial. So remember, Lencho's request was very specific, 100 pesos. But here's the thing. Despite all his best efforts, the postmaster could only scrape together 70 pesos. It was an incredible act of kindness, for sure, but it wasn't the full 100. And that 30 peso gap? Oh boy, it's about to blow everything up. The money gets sent, and Lencho gets his reply. But his reaction is not what anyone, and I mean anyone, expects.
And this sets up the story's brilliant, jaw-dropping conclusion. In our final section, the ironic twist.
You can picture the postmaster, right? He's watching from a distance, probably feeling pretty good about himself. He's waiting for that moment of pure joy, of gratitude. But that is not what he gets. Lencho isn't happy. He's not grateful. He's angry.
You really have to get inside Lencho's head here, because his logic, if you accept his main premise, is kind of flawless. He counts the money, 70 pesos, and he gets mad. Why? Well, in his mind, God is perfect. God doesn't make accounting errors. God would never shortchange him. So therefore, if the money is missing, it can't be God's fault. Someone else must have interfered. So he immediately sits down and writes a second letter to God. He asks for the missing 30 pesos, but he adds this one critical instruction. Please, whatever you do, don't send it through the mail. Why? Because the post office employees are a bunch of thieves.
As that right there is a perfect textbook example of what we call dramatic irony. It's when we, the audience, know the real truth, but the character in the story is completely in the dark. We know the post office workers are heroes who sacrificed to help him, but Lencho, blinded by his own faith, thinks they're the villain.
So what's the big takeaway here? The story leaves us with something pretty profound to chew on. Lencho's simple, true faith was so powerful, it inspired strangers to do this incredibly kind thing. But his blind faith, his inability to even consider another possibility, led to this huge, bitter misunderstanding. And it leaves us with a question to think about. Where is that line between the faith that can move mountains and the faith that just blinds us to the truth right in front of our eyes?